The moment his fingertips brushed against my collarbone, I knew we had crossed a line we could never uncross. My 18-year-old son, made me feel what my husband hadn't in years. Standing there in our kitchen, sunlight streaming through half-drawn blinds, I let myself breathe into his touch for 5 dangerous seconds. 5 seconds that changed everything. I'm Sarah Miller, and this is my confession. Summer in Arizona is merciless. The heat seeps into everything: houses, cars, relationships. Especially marriages like mine with Richard, where the temperature had dropped to a polar chill years ago. He was a successful attorney who had forgotten that his home contained more than just his office and bed. I had become invisible in my own life, a ghost haunting the hallways of our sprawling ranch house. I stood at the kitchen window that Wednesday morning, watching Richard's car disappear down our long driveway. The coffee in my mug had grown cold, much like everything else between us. Rays of early sunlight caught the diamond on my wedding ring, casting tiny prisms across the granite countertop. I wondered when I had last felt its weight as anything but a shackle. "Morning, Mom." Noah's voice startled me. He'd grown so tall over the past year, 6 feet of lean muscle and quiet confidence. He moved through the kitchen with his father's elegance, but none of his coldness. When he reached for the coffee pot, his arm brushed mine, sending an unexpected shiver across my skin. "You're up early," I said, trying to ignore the brief contact. "I thought teenagers were supposed to sleep until noon during summer break." He smiled, and something in my chest tightened. "Got plans with Dad today?" I laughed, the sound hollow even to my own ears. "Your father has a deposition. Then meetings. Then more meetings." The bitterness in my voice surprised even me. "Same as every day." Noah studied me over the rim of his coffee mug. His eyes, so like Richard's but somehow warmer, lingered on my face longer than usual. "Their loss is my gain," then he said. "Beach day?" "Just us." The nearby lake had a small man-made beach where we'd spent countless summer days when Noah was younger. Back when Richard occasionally joined us, before his career consumed him entirely. "I'd like that," I said, pushing away thoughts of laundry and errands. It's been too long. An hour later, we were setting up our spot on the sand. The beach wasn't crowded on weekdays, just a few families scattered across the shore. I spread out our large blanket while Noah planted the umbrella, muscles in his back shifting beneath his thin t-shirt as he worked it into the sand. I caught myself watching him, the way the fabric clung to his shoulders when he stretched upward. "Perfect spot," I said quickly, looking away. I lowered myself onto the blanket, suddenly self-conscious in my navy one-piece. At 43, I still maintained my figure. Swimming laps 3 times a week ensured that, but age was beginning to leave its subtle marks. Noah pulled off his shirt in one fluid motion, revealing a chest more defined than I remembered. When had my son become this young man? He caught me looking and held my gaze for a moment too long. "Want to swim?" he asked, breaking the strange tension. The water was cool relief from the scorching heat. We swam out to the floating dock, races devolving into splashing fights like when he was younger. But his hands felt different when they caught my wrists to stop me from splashing him, strong and sure in a way that made me pull away slightly. "Remember how Dad used to throw me from his shoulders?" Noah asked, floating on his back beside me. "He hasn't been swimming with us in years," I said softly. "His loss," Noah replied, echoing his earlier sentiment. His fingertips grazed the water's surface near my arm, creating tiny ripples that touched my skin. "You deserve better, Mom." The sincerity in his voice made something in my chest ache. I let myself float, eyes closed against the brilliant sun, feeling oddly exposed despite being fully clothed. The water lapped gently against my sides as Noah's words hung in the air between us. When we returned to our blanket, the sun had intensified. I dug through my bag for the sunscreen, squeezing the thick white lotion into my palm. "Let me get your back," Noah offered, taking the bottle from my hands before I could respond. I hesitated, then turned, sweeping my damp hair over one shoulder. His shadow fell across my back as he knelt behind me. The first touch of his hands made me inhale sharply, the coolness of the lotion a stark contrast to his warm palms. "You okay?" he asked, his voice closer to my ear than I expected. "Just cold," I lied. His hands moved in slow, deliberate circles across my shoulders, thumbs pressing firmly along my spine. This wasn't how Richard used to apply sunscreen, quick, functional strokes before returning to his book or phone. Noah took his time, fingers working into the tight muscles at the base of my neck. "You're tense," he murmured. I nodded, not trusting my voice. Each sweep of his hands seemed to blur the line between maternal care and something more intimate. When his fingers slipped beneath the strap of my swimsuit to cover the skin there, I felt my breath catch. "Am I hurting you?" he asked, immediately lightening his touch. "No," I whispered. "It's fine." His hands continued their journey downward, spreading the lotion across my middle back. I closed my eyes, torn between telling him to stop and not wanting him to. The gentle pressure of his fingertips along my ribs sent a forbidden warmth through my body. When his hands reached the small of my back, lingering there longer than necessary, I felt myself leaning back slightly into his touch. "Almost done," he said, his voice carrying a strange new texture. The moment stretched between us like taffy, sweet and dangerous. His breath whispered against my shoulder, and I realized how close he was sitting. I could feel the heat radiating from his chest, nearly touching my back. "There," he finally said, but his hands remained on my waist for 3 more heartbeats before slowly withdrawing. I turned to thank him, finding his face inches from mine. Something unspoken passed between us, a current of recognition that made me look away first. "Your turn," I said, my voice unnaturally bright as I reached for the sunscreen. He turned, presenting his back to me. My hands trembled slightly as I applied the lotion to his shoulders, broader than I remembered. The muscles beneath his skin responded to my touch, tensing and relaxing. I traced the line of his spine, feeling each vertebra, telling myself this was maternal care, nothing more. But when my fingers brushed the small hairs at the nape of his neck, and he let out a soft sound, something between a sigh and a groan, I pulled back as if burned. "All done," I announced, my voice strained. We spent the afternoon in a strange dance of awareness. Conversations about college plans and summer jobs punctuated by prolonged silences and accidental touches that felt increasingly deliberate. When our fingers brushed as we both reached for the water bottle, neither of us pulled away immediately. The tension coiled tighter with each passing hour. The drive home was quiet, the air between us charged despite the cool blast of the car's air conditioning. Noah's profile was sharp against the golden light of late afternoon, his jaw set in a way that reminded me too much of his father in younger days. At home, the emptiness of the house greeted us. Richard had texted that he would be working late, again. I started dinner while Noah showered, trying to focus on chopping vegetables rather than the sound of running water and the mental image it conjured. I was stirring pasta sauce when I sensed him behind me. He moved silently for someone his size. The hair on my arms rose before he even spoke. "Smells good," he said, his voice lower than usual. I turned, nearly colliding with his chest. He changed into sweatpants and a thin t-shirt, his hair still damp from the shower. A droplet of water traced a path down his neck, disappearing beneath his collar. My eyes followed it unbidden. "Just spaghetti," I said, stepping back until I felt the counter edge press into my spine. "Nothing special." "I disagree." His eyes held mine, something shifting in their depths. "Today was special." The air between us thickened. He reached past me for a glass from the cabinet, his arm brushing against mine. The brief contact sent electricity dancing across my skin. When he withdrew, he moved slower than necessary, his chest nearly touching mine. "Noah," I whispered, unsure if it was a warning or an invitation. He stepped back, something unreadable crossing his features. "Sorry," he said, though he didn't specify for what. We ate dinner in strained silence, the clink of forks against plates unnaturally loud. Richard called to say he would be staying in the city overnight. Work emergency. The same excuse he'd been using for months. I wondered idly if the junior partner with the perfect blowout was working late too. "Does it bother you?" Noah asked after I hung up. "What?" The way he treats you. Like you're an afterthought. The directness of his question caught me off guard. Marriages are complicated, Noah. That's not an answer. His eyes were intense, searching mine. You deserve someone who sees you. The weight of his words hung in the air between us. Someone who sees you. Isn't that what every woman wants, deep down? To be truly seen? I'm going to bed, I said, standing abruptly and gathering our plates. His hand caught my wrist as I reached for his glass. Mom, he said softly. I see you. His thumb brushed over my pulse point, sending my heart racing. I pulled away gently, confusion and something darker swirling in my chest. Good night, Noah. In my bedroom, I changed into my silk nightgown, the fabric cool against my sun-warmed skin. I stared at my reflection in the vanity mirror, noting the flush in my cheeks that had nothing to do with sunburn. What was happening? What was I allowing to happen? Sleep eluded me. The ceiling fan spun lazy circles above, stirring the air but providing little relief from the heat or my thoughts. Images from the day replayed behind my closed eyelids, Noah's hands on my back, the water droplet on his neck, the intensity in his eyes at dinner. A soft knock on my door startled me fully awake. Mom? Noah's voice was hesitant. Are you still up? I sat up, pulling the sheet to my chest. Yes. What's wrong? The door opened slightly, casting a wedge of hallway light across the carpet. Noah stood in the doorway, a silhouette of uncertainty. I couldn't sleep, he said. Can I talk to you? Something in his voice, vulnerability mixed with determination, made me nod. He crossed the room and sat on the edge of my bed, the mattress dipping under his weight. In the dim light from the hallway, his features were softened, younger. What's on your mind? I asked, trying to sound normally maternal despite the unusual setting. He was quiet for a long moment, looking down at his hands. Do you ever feel like you're watching your life instead of living it? The question hit too close to home. Sometimes, I admitted. Especially lately. I see how unhappy you are, he continued. How alone, even when Dad's here. Which isn't often. His hand found mine atop the covers, fingers intertwining with mine. It makes me angry. And confused. Confused? I should have pulled my hand away. I didn't. Noah's thumb traced small circles on my palm, each one sending ripples of sensation up my arm. About what I'm feeling. About today, the air in the room seemed to thin. Noah, please don't say it's nothing, he interrupted. Don't dismiss it. I felt something today. When I touched you. And I think you felt it too. My heart hammered against my ribs. Denial rose to my lips but died there, unwilling to form itself into a lie. We can't have this conversation, I whispered instead. Why not? Because it's wrong? Or because it's true? His face was closer now, eyes searching mine in the half-light. I could smell his soap, the expensive sandalwood one that Richard never used despite my having bought it for him. On Noah, it smelled different. Warmer. Both, I admitted, my voice barely audible. His free hand rose to my face, fingertips ghosting along my cheekbone. I should have pulled away. Every social boundary, every maternal instinct screamed for me to stop this. Instead, I found myself leaning into his touch, starved for the simple warmth of human connection. You're so beautiful, he whispered, his breath warm against my lips. Not just as my mother. As a woman. The distinction shattered something in me. How long had it been since anyone had seen me as a woman first? Not a wife, not a mother, but a woman with desires and needs and a body that craved touch. We can't, I repeated, even as my hand rose to his chest, feeling his heartbeat racing beneath my palm. I know. His forehead pressed against mine, our breaths mingling in the narrow space between us. I know we can't. But I needed you to know that I see you. All of you. Not just the parts you show everyone else. A tear slipped down my cheek, and he caught it with his thumb. The tenderness of the gesture broke me open, releasing months, years of loneliness and neglect. Noah, I whispered, but whatever I meant to say was lost as he pressed his lips to my forehead in a kiss that walked the razor's edge between filial and something else entirely. Time suspended as his lips lingered against my skin. When he pulled back, His eyes were dark pools in the shadowed room. Something passed between us, acknowledgement of a line we were dangerously close to crossing. He stood then, the mattress rising as his weight left it. "I should go," he said, his voice rough. Before, the unfinished thought hung in the air between us, heavy with possibility and danger. Yes, I agreed, though part of me wanted to reach for him, to pull him back. At the doorway, he paused, silhouetted against the hall light. "Whatever happens or doesn't happen," I meant what I said. "You deserve more than what he gives you." After he left, I lay awake for hours, my body humming with awareness, my mind a battlefield of desire and propriety. The ceiling fan continued its endless circles, stirring the air but providing no relief from the heat that had nothing to do with the Arizona summer. Morning came, bringing with it a clarity that had eluded me in the night's shadows. What had transpired, what had almost transpired, couldn't happen again. The boundaries between us needed reinforcement, not dismantling. Richard returned mid-morning, bringing the scent of expensive cologne and city nights with him. He kissed my cheek absently, already scrolling through emails on his phone. His presence, once so central to my world, now felt like an intrusion. "Good trip?" I asked mechanically. "Productive," he replied without looking up. "Is there coffee?" Noah appeared in the kitchen doorway, his eyes meeting mine over Richard's bent head. Something passed between us, recognition, regret, resolution. He nodded slightly, an acknowledgement of the unspoken agreement to step back from the precipice we'd approached. Richard remained oblivious, lost in his digital world, as his wife and son shared a moment of connection he hadn't earned and couldn't understand. In that moment, I realized that while Noah and I would retreat from the dangerous edge we'd discovered, Richard and I had already fallen from a different cliff entirely. That night, after Richard had retreated to his home office, I found Noah sitting alone on the back patio, moonlight silvering his profile. I sat beside him, maintaining a careful distance. "I've been thinking about colleges again," he said without preamble. "The one in Colorado looks good." Colorado. Nearly 700 miles away. The message was clear. "It's a great school," I agreed, my heart both breaking and healing at once. "The mountains are beautiful there." We sat in silence for a long moment, watching the stars emerge in the darkening sky. "I'm sorry," he finally said. "For last night." "I'm not," I replied, surprising myself with the truth of it. "Not entirely. You made me feel seen when I'd been invisible for so long. But it's not a path we can take," he finished for me. "No, it's not." Another silence, comfortable despite the weight of our words. "Will you leave him?" Noah asked eventually. The question hung in the warm night air. 6 months ago, even a week ago, I would have dismissed it immediately. Now, I gave it the consideration it deserved. "I don't know," I answered honestly. "But whatever I decide, it will be for me. Not for him. And not for you." Noah nodded, understanding the importance of that distinction. "You deserve happiness, Mom. Real happiness." "So do you," I said, reaching over to squeeze his hand briefly, a mother's touch, nothing more. As we sat under the vast Arizona sky, I felt something shift inside me, not the dangerous heat of the previous day, but something cleaner, more powerful. Self-recognition. The woman I had lost was finding her way back, awakened not by forbidden desire, but by the simple act of being truly seen. The summer stretched before us, weeks of navigating this new awareness, while maintaining the boundaries we both knew were necessary. It would be difficult, sometimes painful, but no longer impossible. I had been invisible for too long. Now, seen at last, I could begin to see myself again.